Well, hello everybody. How's everybody doing here out in Facebook land? I'm going to get my rig set up so that I can answer any questions that we may have. Welcome. It's Thursday. Oh, hope everybody is following the rules and masking up. That's my fervent hope for everybody. Let's make sure that we are live and that I can read your comments. Good. We're good to go. Oh boy. Technology, friends, gets in the way. All right. So, another crazy week here in the United States. They're trying to get our kids to go back to school. I live with a teacher administrator, and I just want you to know that we hang out with teachers and other administrators, and all they do is cry. They cry every night at the concept of their kids having to come back to school. It's not for the kids, by the way. It's not for the kids. It's for who the kids go home to. People, I just heard the administration go on about how the kids are so resilient. Yeah, the kids are so resilient, but who do they go home to? In many cases, they go home to grandparents who are taking care of the kids, and or they go home to immunocompromised parents. This is going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be awful. We're going to have orphans. It's going to be terrifying. That just happened. This is what happens when you watch the news right before you go ahead and do this sort of thing. So the other thing is that I was going to play y'all some music, except I went and cut the tip of my finger. I hope that's not terribly gruesome to you right there, but I was slicing bagels just the other day because what does a Jew do for breakfast? One has bagels and cream cheese and sprinkles a little capers on top. I don't eat fish. Wow. A Jew from Oklahoma, landlocked, who doesn't eat fish. So, yeah, I was slicing my bagel in the morning and, woo boy, took a little piece of it with there. So you be careful when you're using the knife there. So I wasn't able to play you some music today, but I do want to talk about music. I did release a record just the other day. I released a Yiddish music record, colloquially referred to as klezmer music. I'm super proud of it. It was something that I recorded back in 2000. And why did it get released 20 years later? I haven't the life of me. In 2000, I think it was because I was traveling with Franklin's Klezmer Brass All-Stars. I was playing regularly with people like Henry Sapoznik and his Youngers of Zion. I was collaborating with people like Michael Alpert. I was teaching at Klez Camp. I was just klezed out. I was doing, I was playing with a lot of klezmer people, and then I would come back to Texas and play with my klezmer band there, and I just wasn't really paying attention to them. And they were great. These musicians were great, just wonderful musicians, and in fact, better than wonderful. Our clarinet player, Ben Safford, actually wrote some original material. This is 20 years ago. He was writing original Yiddish material, which seems to be something I've been going on about Jewish music being a living stream. And there we were doing it 20 years ago, and I forgot all about it. Sometimes you overlook an orchid in search of a rose. Thank you, Mike. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, it sounds fresh, and it's 20 years old. There's some things about it I would have changed if I'd had the money or time or effort, but that's okay. I think it stands on its own. And it's available for free. Free for nothing. I'm so proud of it. I want you to hear it. Oh, I should mention one of the interesting things about it is in our music, we're familiar with having a hammered dulcimer called a cymbal. And 20 years ago, people weren't really playing this instrument. It has enjoyed quite the renaissance in the last 20 years. And there are people playing this instrument now. However, there weren't anybody at the time. And there was this lovely woman who used to come and see us named Hedya Shafai. And she played the Arabic kanun, or quanun. And it is a 72-string zither. Kind of a... And she's only like 80, 90 pounds, and the instrument itself is like 40 pounds. So she had to bring her boyfriend along to carry it for her. And she would show up at our gigs. We had a regular gig at a place, at a coffee house on Tuesday nights. And she would just show up and she would go, "May I sit in?" And I'm like, "You had your boyfriend lug this into the car." And it was like, of course you can sit in. And because the modality of the Jewish music matched a lot of the modality of Arabic music. And so we had sheet music for her and she would play with us. And it was just enchanting. So when we went to cut the record, we invited her to play. And so on the record, she emulates the role of the Jewish symbol, and she does so on the Arabic kanun. It is something special, folks. And it's she's recorded 2 tracks on our record, 2 beautiful little chassidos. And like I said, super proud of this record. Would love for you to have it. I will post a link to it down in the comments. And it's one of those pay as you like kind of things. So that's the first thing there. So that's what I'd like to talk about. If anybody has some questions, look, friends, I didn't get too many questions. I think I got like 2 questions, and then I have a little few talking points I want to talk about. I might tell you a story later if you're interested. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about context and how important context is in relation to behavior and how behavior changes over time. For instance, I'm a product. I'm a middle-aged man, cisgender neutral male from the South, and see, I have to learn these new terminology. Because things have changed, things move forward. So I have this habit of saying "ladies and gentlemen" all the time, and I'm trying to not use that kind of terminology anymore because I've found that it lets a lot of people out, and I like to be inclusive. So I try really hard to say friends and neighbors because I prefer to allow everybody across the spectrum of genders to hear what I have to say and be respectful to that because things have changed. One of the problems I have that I have encountered and that I need to change, and what I might recommend you think about, is that some particular contexts have changed. And one of the things that I've noticed is that when somebody asks me a question, especially if they're asking me, "Is everything okay? Is everything okay, Mark? Is everything okay?" And I go, "Everything's okay. Everything's all right." Now, see, I grew up with this meaning everything is okay. That these fingers, that this meant O, and that was a K. Everything is okay. I think it comes from World War II, if I'm not mistaken. It was a hand sign used by pilots, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But for people who needed to do hand signs very quickly, this was an OK. And I would do things like when someone asked me, how's the food? I would go, delicious. It's okay. Contexts have changed. And so now, a group of people have now decided that this now means a W, and this means a P. White power. So when you see this now, which used to mean okay, okay. This has been co-opted now pretty thoroughly by people who are trying to indicate white power. I know that there's some conversation about that, and the people outside the United States may disagree with that, but much like the Confederate flag, where some people were raised, and I know this because I'm from Oklahoma, and I know people who were raised this way. There are genuinely people who were raised to understand that the Confederate flag represented Southern, just that you were raised in the South, and that this was a symbol of Southern pride, that it was not a symbol of hatred or a reminder of necessarily slavery and white supremacy. I know that that sounds ridiculous, but there are people who were raised that way, so they seem in genuine shock. I'm not making this up. When they are told that it's a symbol of hatred. These are people my age, a little bit older. So they need to be understood that that context has changed. Another context that changed was the rainbow flag. There was a time that the rainbow flag meant the Rainbow Coalition that Jesse Jackson had put together. You know what I mean? So when the Rainbow Coalition came along, that was their emblem. Well, now the rainbow, you know what I mean? The Rainbow Coalition, the rainbow flag had to be given up to another group of people, and that's fine. That context changes. It's a moving target. So the same way that I need to degender my language, I have to be careful with my hand signals now. And I think I'd recommend that you do the same and that you note that kind of stuff. That's something that kind of bothered me recently. It's, context is a moving target. Yeah, it's true that you want to, you can personally feel that you want to not give up ground to people like that. But the fact of the matter is that these times and these contexts and these situations, they just don't allow for utopian, gosh, it could or should be that way. We're living on a knife's edge here right now, and I think we all need to be aware of those things. This is personal. You may disagree with me, and I think that's perfectly fine. You may disagree with me. Another thing you might disagree with me is this concept of this word cancel culture. Good Lord, cancel culture? I don't believe in such a thing. I don't believe there's such a thing as cancel culture. I think when that's like, if someone's being pilloried, maybe they should think about not doing the behavior that they were doing. And that if a large group of people say that they should boycott you or boycott your actions because of that, that's perfectly fine. And if you disagree with that, you should make a case otherwise. A lot of people don't agree with me. A lot of people, I've been cut out of a lot of stuff, but if my behavior was on the wrong side, then wrong side of right, then that particular boycott and that particular ostracization from society did the trick. It sure tightened me up, straightened me up, and put me back in the good graces, only after I had done the work. You know what I mean? For instance, got myself back into context. I think the only people who are railing against this concept of cancel culture are people who refuse to take the advice of moving forward. I don't know if I'm being eloquent about that, but I didn't get a lot of questions. So what can I do? Oh, I can also mention, I'm just going to make a pitch here. I just got in the mail all the way from Canada, which is one of my favorite towns, a box filled with Kaplansky's mustard, friends. Kaplansky's mustard. Ask for it by name, accept no substitutes. This is some good Hamische Yiddish mustard right here, ladies and gentlemen. I would pitch for it in French too if I spoke that language, ladies and gentlemen. But this is the horseradish right here. And next time I don't cut my finger on a bagel. Next time I don't cut my finger on a bagel and I'm making myself a pastrami sandwich with those good Costco bagels. By the way, the Costco bagels are the best bagels I can find in New Orleans, man. And when you say that, man, you are in trouble, bro. But next time I get myself some bagels and not cut my finger, I'll tell you what, I'm going to spread some of this good Kaplansky's mustard on there that I had shipped all the way down from Canada to get that, ladies and gentlemen. So there's that. Now look, I will accept some questions here, so if anybody's got any, I would sure like to hear from you because, like I said, I think I have a grand 2 questions here for y'all, and I've got short answers because I don't have much to say about them. My friend Dylan posed the question, what do you think of Utah Phillips? And that's an interesting question. No one's really asked me that before. I guess this would be a good time for everybody who's watching right now who doesn't know who Utah Phillips is to maybe write that name down, and then after we're all done, Google him. Or if you like, let's take a moment and Google Utah Phillips. And then we'll hydrate as well, okay? Open up the other screen. Okay. Utah Phillips was a singer-songwriter who was entirely committed to social justice. A wonderful songwriter and performer who used every moment on stage to advance some or other cause at the time, and became legendary for doing so. However, I will tell you that he and I, and his music and I, never once crossed paths. Now, given my music in my Jew of Oklahoma solo act and the work that I do, we never did cross paths. His career had kind of wound down, and then he had, by the time I had become active, the whole time that I was involved in punk rock, I wasn't aware of his work, and the whole time I was in Bad Livers, never ran into him, and it wasn't I think until someone at the Philadelphia Folk Festival handed me his legendary stage plot, which you can joke about, which is really quite hilarious. I will tell you this one Utah Phillips story that told me, Mike Hurwitz, I will answer your question in a moment. That's a great question. This is a Utah Phillips story that I did have, which made me respect him and gave me a window into Utah Phillips, which tells me that I probably missed out quite a bit. I was listening to Prairie Home Companion, a problematic show on a good day. I wrote an essay and put it on my blog, which you're more than welcome to go back and follow up. It's called Dispatches from the Jew of Oklahoma. You may look it up online. I have quite a lot of writings on it. But I wrote an essay about Prairie Home Companion where I called it Radio If the Nazis Won. And I think Utah probably felt the same way, because on his last performance there, when they gave him the mic and in between songs, he basically made a speech about how National Public Radio was a corporation no different than any other and had been a complete letdown, and that when you were making decisions with your money about who to give to public radio, you should look up your local independent station. You should look up your local Pacifica station, or your local. In other words, don't give your money to NPR. Don't give your money to Prairie Home Companion. These places are just corporations, and you should just ignore them. And I was like, yay! Like here you are on this platform, and you're not gonna take any shit from them. You're gonna use your platform for something good. And I was like, yeah, okay, this guy's all right. But I think Utah Phillips ended up being somebody that you name checked if you wanted to show that you were a lefty. I think some people did that. I think later in life, I think people draped him on as a kind of like as a suit, saying, as a name check, as opposed to actually following in his path. We have a question from Mike Hurwitz here. This is interesting. Is there a compendium of Yiddish resistance music out there? There's a couple, actually. Songs from Jewish labor. There's actually quite. There are. I will look them up and link to them. You will find. Let's be right off the bat. There are people writing new material like that right now. I'd like to point you to the Canadian singer Jeff Berner, number one. And then I'd also like to point you to, oh God, his name's falling out of my head right now. He's going to stab me in the heart next time I see him. But he has a band called Daniel Kahn and the Painted Bird. Great examples of modern performers working in that style. But you will find collections both of World War II resistance songs. There's a great one of Soviet songs that just came out. There's another one of Labor Bundes songs. I will link those in the comments. Look, man, long tradition. Doloi Poltsoi, I don't know if you're familiar with that song. Fun de Barrikaden, To the Barricades. Doloi Poltsoi, which means, trigger warning, fuck the police. These are all deeply within our tradition, both from the labor movement, from the anti-czarist movement, and from the Nazi partisan movement. These are all songs. I've actually just done a English translation, my own contextual English translation to a Mordecai Gebertig song called S. Brent. I should also let you know that we did a Yiddish version of this tune, S. Brent, on the record Semitism, which I was just shilling at the top of this talk. So, once again, links in the comment section. Where's my pen? I will make note. Mike, that's a great question. Thank you very kindly. Yiddish revolutionary song. Very good. So we answered the one question that I got there. Got another question, and this one's kind of a deep one. Don't know if I've got a good answer. By the way, we touch our faces a lot, and I do this a lot because I have a beard. But we have to, once again, new context. Putting our fingers on our face, not a good idea. So I have to learn new ways to touch one's face where you're not doing it with your fingers. New contexts, people. We're going to be living with this disease for a long time because people aren't covering your face, man. People are not covering their face. It's going to keep me out of work for at least a year. That's another story. All right, this is the only other question I got beforehand. Could you please advise your effective strategies for talking at and with audiences. Wow. Okay. Let me give you the best advice I ever got for addressing an audience. And you're talking about someone who used to suffer from terrifying anxiety. Try this out. Master said this. Master said, everybody wants you to do good. No one's looking for you to fail. No one showed up at the show hoping that you would fail. Everybody's looking to have a good time. They're looking for you to do well. He said, think of it like this. Think of it as a bus ride. It's a trip on a bus or a plane. And you've been seated next to a stranger. And the two of you both know that you're only going to be next to each other for a certain amount of time. And you know that that time is going to end. So you're going to create a certain amount of small talk. And you're going to be friendly. So just address the audience as in the friendly sort of way that you would the person sitting next to you on a bus. I'll try and speak louder. Would that help? I'll get a little closer. Look, when you can't hear me, you got to remind me, so I'll try and speak up. I'm trying not to use those damn headphone things. The reason why is because I don't have any and I can't afford them. If anybody wants to help me out and spring for a set, that'd be nice. So I'll repeat. When people come to your show, they're wanting you to do good. They want you to do good. Nobody comes to your show hoping that you're going to do bad. So when you're addressing the audience, just talk to them like there's somebody sitting next to you on a bus. And the bus ride is only going to be so long. That's what Master said. Then what I learned from I think the other thing is what I learned from being a sideman was watching so many other people address the audience and learning the techniques that they used to talk to the audience. And the key is you just have to be yourself. Whoever you are, whoever the real person that you are is who you get across. Because if you start, there are certain people I know who kind of go into this character that they kind of create on stage. But the problem is that when they get off stage, they have a real hard time breaking out of that character. And I was very, very guilty for this because I was so shy. I would like create this suit of armor and put this suit of armor on, and then get on stage and then use that suit of armor, which was like all happy and like, you know, had like a routine, and then come off stage. But the problem was it was hard to take that suit of armor on, and then you like would go and try and talk to your girlfriend, and she's like, "Who the hell are you?" You know what I mean? Like it's not sustainable. What is sustainable is just being as natural as possible as you can. I think that's how you're going to get across. And take deep breaths. Try and make eye contact with somebody you're getting through to. I look out, You know what I mean? Smile. You know what I mean? Try and and look, sometimes I've found that if you're not getting through to an audience at all, look and find the one person you are and make it your private little game. You and that one person. It's like your private little game that no one in this audience is paying attention, but you are. You know what I mean? So there are ways and techniques about getting over and getting through. I hope that answers your question. I really hope that answers your question, because those are all the questions I have. Unless, oh, Buffalo, something I appreciate about you is how friendly you are to all people. You don't know me that well, Buffalo, because I am not friendly to people that I don't like. It's something I need to really work on. I make gut decisions about people. I'm a super judgmental person. I will make a gut reaction. I will have like a feeling in my pupik right here, and I go, I don't like you, and I will turn off the spigot, and I will pretend as though you're not there. And I know that you have seen me possibly at my best, Buffalo, and I love you. I do have this thing where I'll meet somebody, and I'll see something inside them, a real namaste kind of moment, and I'll go, I love you, and I'm going to be your friend for life. I'm going to be your, well, that's because you, Buffalo, I saw something in you, and I've decided that you and I are going to be friends for life, no matter what happens. And so I think there are certain connections that you make with people that you just don't understand. You catch a certain vibration, and that you just cue in on people. And there are just certain people that I feel their vibration, and I go, that's not going to be a good deal for me. That's not going to be. It's not going to be a positive experience for either one of us. So that's my dukkha or dukkha or whatever the Buddhists call it. That's my. But I have a problem with that. I need to be nicer to people. It's important at this really terrible time to put out as much positive energy as one possibly can. Especially if you are someone who is prone to negative. And my mental illness, for instance, really exacerbates that. So I thought I'd share that. Is everybody hydrated? Everybody got something to drink? Adam, you doing good? Everybody got a Fred? Everybody got something to drink? Franz, haven't seen you in years. Everybody good? Okay. Now, nobody's got a question, so I figured I'd tell you a little story. Is that okay? I'll tell you a little story. Let me tell you a little story about this flag here, right? Can anybody identify this flag right here? Anybody know? Well, it is the flag. It is the flag of the region of Brittany, also called Bretagne, I think, in their language. And I think it's pretty slick. I like it a lot. They are a Celtic people who are on the north coast of what is France, though they themselves don't really necessarily altogether recognize being French, which leads to this very interesting story. You got a second? It's kind of long. So in 1992, I'm in this group called Bad Livers, and we got a gig in France, actually, in a town called Rennes. And this story just goes on. Computer here. Okay. I'm not going to belabor you with all of the story, but I will tell you about the fist fight that I got into on the plane. I've only ever been in 4 fist fights in my life. 2 of them have been on international airplanes, international flights. And but I got into a genuine fist fight on the airplane, which earned me a bottle of wine and a trip back home on first class. That's a long story. However, I will tell you that when I got there to Rennes, we got in a day early so we could adjust our ears and get like adjusted to the city. And I remember now when I was younger and I hadn't been around the world, my family, all the men in my family had been world travelers. They'd been in the military, and then after the military, they had done a lot of world traveling for their business or just for pleasure. And my father in particular had been to Europe, and my grandfather had been literally around the world. And they'd always brought home trinkets, badges, pins, and the thing that I got interested in was flags. So the thing is that I would pick up a flag from every little country that I'd been around. And so we were walking through this city of Rennes, and I noticed right off the bat there weren't any French flags around. There weren't really any French flags around. There didn't appear to be any. And what I saw were these flags. And I thought that was really strange. So as I was walking around, I walked into a shop, and it was called a Breton shop. And it had all kinds of stuff that related to Breton culture. In fact, I ended up buying a couple cassettes by this local musician, this famed local musician who used to play in the fish market, and he used to sit there with an accordion. His name was Jean Marceau, and he played an accordion and a bass drum that had a cymbal attached to it, and he used to just bang on the bass drum with a cymbal making a rack. He called it le jazz. And he played the accordion. He played traditional Breton music. It was real beloved there. And I bought one of his cassettes. And they did not speak French. They spoke their own language. They had their own culture. And they really felt like they were a separate people from the French. And they were having a little bit of a cultural renaissance at that time. And I was like, wow, I did not know this. I showed up here thinking that I was going to be, coming to France and all, but what I was coming to was Brittany. And I was like getting this great education. Wow. And I said, well, hey, sir, I shall purchase one of these flags. That is so nice. How cool is that? So I just kept it, I just folded it up and put it in my little bag with my passport and my little French money, and like I carry with me, my little man purse that I carry with me in Europe. So didn't think much of it. And then we go out. Then we go out that night, and they invite us out to the stage, to the concert hall that we're going to play the next night. And they go, "You've got to see this guy. His name is Dennis Prigent, or Prigent. Dennis Prigent." They're going, "You have to see this guy. You have to see this guy." And we're going, "Sure, that sounds great." So we go down there, and this room is packed. I mean, it is packed out. There's not a single room for anybody. It's elbows and assholes, as we like to say. Now, what gets me is this crowd is literally, there is literally the mayor of the city and all of the city councilmen, like every politician, and you can tell it's the mayor because they're wearing this sash, right? Like they're dressed up in their Sunday best, wearing this big sash. They're all there. And then behind them are a bunch of punk rockers with purple hair. Like it was the most age and demographically diverse group of people I'd ever seen. I mean this literally. It was from the oldest to the youngest, from the richest to the poorest. It was as if the whole city from high to low had showed up for this gig. And me and Danny Barnes are looking around going, what is going on? Who is this Dennis Prigent guy, man? This is, whew. So, all of a sudden, hush goes over the crowd, the lights go down, hush goes over the crowd. There are 2 microphones on the stage. 2, count them 2. And one is up here, and then the other one is down on the floor. So this fella, all of a sudden, this one fella walks out on stage, and he holds his hand up against his ear like this, And then he just commenced to singing into the microphone. Now he's singing in some language. It's not French. I don't recognize it. It's Breton, as it turns out. And then all of a sudden, he starts to stomp his foot. Boom, 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 boom. And starts to sing along with his stomping. And all of a sudden, the whole damn room starts to stomp along with him. I have never, from the lowest to the high, they're all in rhythm, stomping along with him while he's singing. I have never experienced anything like it. When I come to find out, this is called a kanha-diskan. A kanha-diskan. He is singing a traditional Breton music that is singing to accompany a dance. And everybody is stomping along with him. And then, after that, he sings this ballad called I can't even pronounce it, G-W-E-R-Z, a gewers, which is a monotone, tragic ballad. It's got like 3 notes in it, and it goes on for 9 minutes. And it holds everybody in the room in rapt attention. And by the end, people are like crying. And I'm like, me and Barnes are looking around going, there's something culturally going on here that we're like missing entirely. Like, this is a deeply, deeply Britain cultural event. Like, we're watching, it's like walking in on somebody's religious service or something and not knowing what's going on. It was really deep. It was special. And I found out later that this was like a breakthrough gig for this particular artist. That this was like a really special night. And it was a special night. Like I said, from the high to the low, I'd never seen anything quite like it. So we go back to the hotel room and I go, whoa, whew, tomorrow's going to be interesting. So the next day, the scene is set. I'm going to do this again. All right. Tell me about it. So the next day, we're going to go down and open up for, I'm not making this up, we're going to open up, the bill is Bad Livers, first band. No, first band is a band who shall not be named from northern Louisiana, first them, then Bad Livers, then, I'm not making this up, Disposable Heroes of Hip-Hoperacy, if you remember them, with Charlie Hunter playing with them. Amazing group. So we're backstage, and I see the first band, who are, by their own description, a novelty act. So this is their first time out of the country, and they're coming to France. So, what have they done? They have brought out a whole shtick about France. So they have set up a stage, and I'm not making this up, that is festooned with French flags and garbage cans. So they can make jokes about French words like garbage. I'm not making this up. But they have literally the whole stage festooned up in French flags, and they're making all these jokes about French language and French culture. So they play their set, and they go over like a lead balloon, like a turd in the punch bowl. They are nearly booed. People literally get up and walk out of the theater. They nearly played in front of nobody. It was one of the most difficult scenes I have seen. They had no idea what they had just done, and it was pretty wild. So now it's our turn. There was like a 40-minute set break or something because they had some like live act out on the street or whatever as an oleo, as an in-between act. And so now we set up. Now Bad Livers, my band, has no setup. It's just a guy with a fiddle and a guy with a bass and a guy with a banjo. So it's really easy. So we had plenty of time to set up, and we're chatting there with Charlie Hunter. We found out his dad was a banjo player, and we're having a good time, and people are coming in. And I'm setting up my mise en place, as we like to say. We're setting up my gears, and so I've got my little drink set up, and I got everything going on. And I have to keep the time, I used to carry a pocket watch. So I take the pocket watch and I hang it off the mic stand, right? Kind of like the way I'm holding this iPad right here. I hang the mic hang it off the mic stand. And I had my little man bag with me, because what you learn as a musician is you don't leave stuff backstage. You don't leave your passport, and you don't leave money backstage. You take it with you on stage. You always take that stuff with you on stage so that you don't lose it. There's too many stories of that stuff disappearing from backstages. So I had my man bag, and in my man bag was my little flag. And I was like, those dudes from North Louisiana with their French flags, they really blew it. They really blew it, man. So I just had a wild hair. I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. So no big deal. I just reached in my bag and I pulled this flag out, and then I just hung it on my mic stand. And I don't know what happened, but the people who were coming back in, the place was about half full at that point. That crowd erupted. I mean, it just went boom. It was one of the loudest applauses I have ever heard, and we hadn't even gotten started. All I had to do was just tie this little flag, this little tiny flag. The other band had been out there with huge French banners, right? But all I had to do was take this little puny little Breton flag and just hang it off my mic stand. And that place erupted. And we had that crowd in the palm of our hands for our set. We sold all of our CDs. But as we were walking off the stage, as we were walking off the stage, the promoter runs up to me and goes, you need to come with me. They want a press conference. The press has asked for a press conference. And I'm going, look, this is 1992. Our band had been around for less than a year and a half. No one's ever paid attention to us. A press conference. So we got a press conference. They sat us down. They had translators, the whole deal. They had local TV. They had all of this stuff. And I had like my man bag, and I had my little flag in the man bag. And they were like, "Why did you do what you did? Why did you do that? Why did you do that?" You know? And I said, "Well," I told them the story. I'd come to town. I'd found out that this is Brittany. You know what I mean? And I said I saw what the open act did, and I saw that they were from America, and I thought that was pretty upsetting. That wasn't a good representation of us, and that I thought that maybe that we could represent ourselves a little better here and be a little more respectful to the local culture. And that went over pretty darn good. And we got a lot of press out of the deal. We ended up doing a couple more TV things. They took us out to the market, and I mean, it ended up being a heck of a couple of days for us there. I remember that fist fight that I got I told you about on the flight in. On the way back, we got our tickets. I remember looking at the ticket, and it said seat 3, not seat 44. Like it was when we came in on the 747. It was seat 3, and Danny Barnes had seat 4, and we were like, what? And we found out that the flight crew had upgraded our tickets. I don't recommend getting in a fist fight on an international flight. That can get you in a lot of trouble. But if you're gonna do it the way I did. Maybe we can talk about that fist fight later. I'm actually working on a book, so eventually I will have a book. So that's the story of Bad Livers playing in Brittany. Folks, I hurt my finger, so I can't really play you any music. This is I've told you about the record that I just released. I almost forgot. I want to tell you about one more thing that I was real proud about. Just recently, my friend Georgi Stepjovich, who is he's a wonderful slap bassist, and now when we say slap bassist, we're referring to the upright bass, not the Brothers Johnson electric bass, where they kind of do this thing with the slap, like that, that kind of funk bass. I'm not talking about that. We're talking about the boom, ticka boom, ticka boom, ticka boom, ticka boom on the upright bass, which is kind of what I'm kind of known for in certain circles. And my friend Georgie does this thing on once a week on YouTube Live called the Slap Stream. And he goes out of his way to find folks who do this technique that he finds interesting. And he interviewed me last Saturday. And that interview and lecture demonstration went on for about 3 hours, because guess who likes to talk? And it's archived on YouTube, and once again, I will add the link down here. So how many links is that? Will somebody remind me? I'm linking to Semitism, I'm linking to Yiddish radical labor ballads, and I'm linking to the slap stream, so that you may check that out. I know that it's all about an instrument, but I do get to talk about stuff for musicians. So if you're a musician, you might find something interesting about it. I also go through the arc of my career. We talk about my life in bluegrass, playing with Bad Livers, playing with Santiago Jimenez, working with Steve James and Gary Primich, and the list, and working in klezmer and lautari music. So, and I play different examples of all of those things. So if you get a chance to check that out, please do. I will send the link for that down here in the comments. Friends, I said this was going to be a short version. We're 45 minutes in. Unless I get a question really quick, we're going to wrap this up. It's always fun to see you folks here on Thursday. I love getting the questions and getting the feedback from everybody. It's really all we can do. I do want to say this. I derive 85 to 90% of my income from live music. The way I've been making my living is from playing. I'd say about 75% of my income has come of that income comes from playing the electric bass at a place called the Bayou Club on Bourbon Street. Now, and the rest comes from freelance gigs down on Frenchman Street and on Bourbon Street, and with private events like weddings and the like. Playing with Panorama Jazz Band and playing with pickup different jazz bands in and around town. The fact of the matter is that none of those venues and none of those events are going to reopen. They're not going to reopen until we get to phase 5. Now here we are since March, still locked into phase 1. Phase 1. And we're going to continue to be in phase 1 until our dummy fellow citizens start playing ball. And as I think everyone who's watching at this time, or who have been watching, oh, thank you so much, Sherry. I'm very proud of that record, so I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And I'm going to send the link to Semitism down here so everyone else may enjoy it. I just want to remind people that I have a prediction, and I'd like to share that prediction with everybody right now, is that until they come up with a viable treatment and a viable vaccine, I don't see musicians like myself being able to ply our trades again, at least for another 1.5 or 2 years. I kind of think that's where we're at. So, people like me, I've worked really, really hard to have savings, and I'm working really, really hard to find other means of income. And but I want you to bear that in mind when you meet and speak with people who are full-time professional musicians. So we're whistling past the graveyard right now, and we're trying to find new and creative ways to continue to provide you with those things that we think that you really appreciate, but we are bereft at our inability to do so right now, and don't really know how we're going to move forward. And let's say we all wanted to go find a day job, to quote our president's daughter, to just find something new. Trust me, I am looking for something new. Have been for some time now. So if you've got something new, if you've got a line on something new, would appreciate it. For instance, the means by with which I'm communicating with you now, my computer, for instance, is going to die soon, and then I'll have to be doing this on the cell phone from here on out. But that's the situation, and I feel blessed. I just want to say right off the bat, I feel blessed because I'm in a much better position than most of the younger musicians that I know and stay in touch with. So don't worry so much about your old buddy Mark. I'm in much better position than most. But thanks again for tuning in. If anybody joined in late and has a question they'd like to share for next week, hey, maybe I can play you some music next week. Mike asked about Yiddish songs of protest. I might be able to pull you out. Might be able to pull you out one or two. Well, let's find out. And like I said, if the good Lord's willing and the creek don't rise, we will see you next time. And I want to remind everybody, please, we want to talk to you, not about you. All right? So, see you next time, okay?